Anyway, we might publish later. But no, just the thing you said about my mother, I have disclosed a great deal of family dysfunction, not so much about my dad, because I haven't fully recovered those memories yet, but my mother's very annoyed about that.
How did you find out?
Oh, because everybody's told her it's up on YouTube, and I've got a YouTube channel, and you know...
my mum's not very tech-savvy, so I'm alright with it.
But it's a small town, even though Mum has only viewed a couple of bits here and there, but there's enough people telling her, oh my God, Angie said this on YouTube and Angie said that on YouTube, and she's more annoyed that what she calls her good name has been destroyed. And then also the fact that my niece took my brother-in-law to court, and my parents and family sided with him in the court case. That was part of what sabotaged it. So, and I went public about that. I made a DVD about that, an hour and a half long. So she's, you know, I've gone to her and said that, Mum, I need to recover memories from babyhood up to 8. Can you help me? And I notice her being really reluctant, and I think it's because she's thinking, no, I won't help you if you're going to publish. You know, I'm not going to give you, you know, I'm not going to help you make another devastating, you know, whatever it is you do. Which to me is sad, that she would rather protect her reputation than help me get my mind back.
Yeah, in fact she's not going to actually try and block you.
Yeah, and it's like, and I keep in my head having that conversation with her where I'll say, that's cranberry, sorry, I forgot to offer you that.
I have no cranberry.
Yeah, I keep meaning to say to her, Mum, this isn't just about me writing a book or having a blog, this is about my sanity. I need to fill in those missing pieces. You can't just, you know, get selective amnesia when you remember everything else in technicolor detail. It's like re-neglecting me all over again, re-failing to protect me all over again, you know. But anyway, so one side with that, I don't know how I got diverted, but I was trying to understand the dad's thing, that's right. So, the one that you are going back to England to get engaged to and marry is not Jess's father, but your youngest's father. Yeah. And he's the one that looked after you when you discovered that Jess's father was controlling and unkind and so on.
And yeah, I've never encountered the whole syndrome of a controlling person. I didn't understand that Jess would be at risk from being emotionally abused.
Oh.
It was emotional abuse, but
yeah,
then he was also giving her the odd slap, because she's just very much like him in a sense. She's very stubborn, and she pushes him and he can't handle it. And but I didn't know about the physical abuse, and so recently I wrote to social services in Ireland to say, look, send some support around there, that apparently this was, you know, he's been hitting Jess. So they did send support around, but you know, in Ireland nobody really wants to know about abuse.
No, I reported emotional abuse of my boys by their father, very damaging, narcissistic. And they said, to be honest, if they're not getting physically or sexually abused, we don't have the manpower.
But with the emotional abuse is the one that does the main damage, isn't it?
It changed their personalities. It was changing who they were. And I had not realised for years, I didn't realise the depths of the personality changing that emotional abuse does and narcissism does, especially to a child. You know?
Well, I think my mum was that. I think my dad was DID. I think he had another alter, the one that affected euphony.
That's the one thing that made me get compassionate when I considered the possibility that if our parents were manipulated as well, I was kind of grasping onto that as a ground whereby I could effectively forgive them. Do you know, like, if I could say, like, because I know my granddad was an abuser because he molested me and my mum and my sister, like my dad's dad, and I know my dad was molested or raped or whatever, you know, 11, 12, 13 in a work situation, but I've never been able to access enough compassion to be around him just from those facts, because being an abuse survivor doesn't justify going on to be an abuser.
No, it doesn't.
You know?
But
then if they were mind controlled, or if they were managed in such a way that it was beyond their...
This is what
then I could access a place where I could say, okay, right, they were victims too.
I hated my dad all my life. I ran away from home. I hated him. When my kids were little, I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to see him. I never confronted him, but I never thought I had a dad. And then I found out about MK Ultra, and I thought, hold on a minute, what if my dad was MK Ultra? I thought, come on. I thought, no. That's why I did my research, to see if I could forgive him. And when I did my research, I got my dad back. And now, instead of just giving him a peck on the cheek and thinking I hate him, I hug him.
That's what
I love him now. I've forgiven him. I've got my dad's back, the one that was my dad who I loved.
That's the one, of all of your work that I read, that was the one tug on my heart that went, what if?
And you think, oh yeah, come on, don't be stupid, just don't make it. And then what did I find? Everything I looked at was, oh well, God, that's the box that he could have been, and I thought, he loved us to bits, they don't know me. We were the little girls, the two little twins who used to make furniture for the dolls, this, that, and yeah, he was sexually abusing me, sexually abusing a neighbour's child. When she was playing, she said, oh, I don't like these, and he put the sun down, and he could, and I was so shocked. And then, but now I think, I am convinced that he has an alter, and it was an alter that did it. I'm convinced of it now, and I'm going to carry on finding evidence, and it's all to get my dad back. I know it is.
That's what, because if we don't, we're like condemned to being failed by our primary relationship all our lives.
It's too much to hope for. That you find your dad was a victim of mind control, and yet your circumstances are so close to mine that I would not be surprised.
Yeah, and also the fact that he was in the Air Force,
and that he's possibly DID because of his abuse as a child as well. He could be DID and have it also, literally.
And his father was so cruel. His father, and as I've got conscious about this, we've tried to let it go, but there was this sadistic sense of humour going down the generations because it was regarded as normal. But there's photographs. My dad was one of 16, 11 survived. And there's photographs of them with their dad, all, lined up, and then the dad makes one of them hold an electric fence, and then laughs as the shot goes through the electric shot. Laughs as the shot goes through them, and then laugh, like he used to set my mother up with things like a rooster in the outside toilet, so she'd sit on, so she'd get a terrifying fright. And he used to, love when the goats bucked us, headed, he kept goats. And when they'd chase us and hurt us, he just used to he used to find that, this is my granddad. And then my dad had that same cruel sense of humour where he would put people on a really wild horse, even including us kids. Always, no matter how well we rode or how much we wanted to please him, he'd always put us on a horse that was a bit too big, or a bit too strong, or a bit too wild, or a jump that was a bit too high, to get to that zone where we would fail.
Like you'd be traumatised.
Yeah.
Literally, you'd be re-traumatised.
Over and over. And I remember a cousin bringing her English fiancé to Ireland to visit Uncle Nico, and it was actually to Bradford-on-Avon in Wiltshire. And Dad did that classic for every visitor, every new person joining our family, put him up on a horse that was beyond his capabilities. He got thrown, he got his back injured, possibly permanently, got his beautiful shirt ripped, and that fiancé was the first person that ever said, that man's a sadist. I will never forgive him for that. He was the first person that saw it with normal eyes. And said, that's not normal. That's not funny.
It wasn't you that was in the wrong, but it was him that was in the wrong, which you could never entertain.
Yeah, because he was trying to be made a fool of at his expense and a laugh and so on. He saw exactly what the game was. This is a sadistic game where I'm victimised, traumatised and laughed at, humiliated. as an initiation into this family, you know, and because a lot of boyfriends or people getting joined onto the family so desperately wanted to belong that they would stuff down that feeling of humiliation and anger and so on, because it meant that they were now and a sister-in-law of my dad said it's like the Kennedy clan. There's something very dark and oppressive about this clan. And she was from New York. She was New York American Irish, and I remember her saying, and it wasn't a compliment, you know. So, but anyway, so the second, why did you split with the father of your youngest child? Why did you originally split up?
I was so desperate to have this place in Ireland. I wanted to, you know, have some land and a place in Ireland.
That
when I
dream.
went over with Mike, it didn't work out. Got together with Brian. He said, "I'll put my house on the market. We'll buy a place here and we'll get married." And then I went back to England to really clear out my house again, to go back over. And Jess was born prematurely, and he kept saying, "Oh, we won't go yet. We won't do it yet. We won't do it yet." And he let me down. He said, "Oh, I've changed my mind. I don't want to. You're fine here. You're fine here." And then
Jess was Jess was Mike's child.
Yeah,
right.
Jess was still with me.
So he kept putting it on the long finger about going to Ireland.
Yeah, and then
especially when you had Jess and she had a disability.
That desperately, she was put in the Prem baby unit. We had to. I didn't give up my house. Luckily, it was still, you know, in the process of. I'd sold all my nice stuff in it, but I was desperately sad about that. But I stayed with him because I felt, you know, each relationship I've been in, I've taken very seriously, and felt if I've committed through sex, then it's sacred, and blah, blah, blah. So, but then my eldest son, who was 15 at the time, just went completely off the rails, and he ended up being schizophrenic. I think there's something bad happened with him, so I think it was an MKO actually. However, Brian, who is so calm and gentle, lost it with him, and he was banging his head on the concrete patio like that. And I know Martin pushed people to the hill, but I could not accept that. And shortly after, I split the family up, and I sent all the kids to the dads, and I just kept Jess with me and left them all with the dads.
Wow.
That was just like I've tried and tried to get his home, get his family together.
Surviving
and I left,
is what you have to do.
Brian, and I left the children, even left my 1-year-old that I had with Brian, who's Anna, and it broke my heart. And then I took my baby to the dad's ashes, scattered them, and went and left them all. I kept Jess with me.
Wow.
And that's why I left Brian. And now thinking back,
and Jess is the one with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
But you'd agreed earlier to hand her over to her dad.
Yeah,
as and when she was independent, ready, like 7 or 8.
Yeah, and she would have been, at that time, she would have been, let's see, 15, that would have been 93, she would have been 2 then, so I kept her with me until she was 7.
And then you let her go to her real
And
dad.
a couple of the others came back to live in the shop, you know, eventually.
Yeah.
And in fact, I always met them up every 2 weeks, and I brought them all together every 2 weeks to keep them at the family. So a very strong bond between them all. And I was always looking for this
Jess's dad, was it Jess's real dad that he was not nice to her?
Well, I've only found this out since she was 18.
And he had her from, so he had her 10 years, so he had her from 7 or 8 to 18.
Because I didn't know about abusive personalities and narcissism.
No, well, it's not your fault.
Until I was abused,
yeah.
seriously abused in domestic violence situation. Then I studied it and I thought, oh my God, I could see then how
it was. There's no point in going down the remorse road with that, because
I didn't know.
You didn't know.
I know, I always tried my very, very, very best with my
Would you like?
No, I'm fine. Just a slowly.
No, I am too. Sorry, I just get up when I feel jumpy. I start cleaning. Do you do? Maybe not. I start cleaning, mithering when I'm getting it hard to digest stuff. So, right, so you just found out. And when did she get her own independent place? Well, well done her, and well done you, just in as much as, I know it's a Jesuit saying, but give me the child till they're 7 years old and I'll give you the man. If you kept her safe for 7 years, she had a foundation. It's no justification for a decade of horror, or not horror, but gaslighting and emotional manipulation and so on. If she had 7 years security, even with the first 2 years, you breastfed, which is brilliant. If she was nurtured and kept safe and put first, you know, the first 2 years are crucial, and then the 7 is a bonus. So although it's heartbreaking,
I never actually thought about that. Actually, yeah, that's so true.
It's the truth.
Yeah,
it is the truth. I wish with all my heart that 7 years had been safe, and I breastfed. I mean, my mum breastfed us. She breastfed me in those days. She breastfed me for about 9 months,
which was very
unusual, and pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I breastfed all of mine, but. Yeah, those first 2, like they say, you study what you need, you know, you learn what you teach what you need to learn. And so I knew that my parenting had been chaotic, and, you know, so I studied. When I had Gabriella, I got pregnant with Gabriella in America, and then I knew I had to learn, how do you parent? How do you do this, you know?
Same with me. Parenting was my career. I learned about breastfeeding, natural birth. The breastfeeding support camp.
My mentor was somebody who wrote a book about breastfeeding, and she'd studied it for 11 years, so I couldn't have asked for a better mentor. And my paediatrician had a patient that adopted and got milk. So I was completely surrounded by support, and I know that that's a huge part of protection.
I know I would never would, and you never would, but these, you know, when you're abused, you can swing either way, you know. And we went into the fully away from it, and we were just blessed that we had the opportunities to love our children.
I know you do desperately try and love them in a way that you wish you had been loved or protected or nurtured. But so tell me how it's come full circle, because you left him because he was losing the plot with your 15-year-old rebel. And does he see now that that wasn't okay, the amount of rage that your teenager was bringing up in him? The one you're going to marry. Have you talked to him about that?
I've only identified myself why I left him not so long ago. And when he said, I'll buy a place in Ireland, I realised that fully compensated for when he didn't do it before.
Right, so this time he's put the promise out there again.
We've put an offer in on a cottage.
Wow.
So it's almost like really full circle, because it's almost
like a delayed promise being kept.
And that's okay.
Yeah, no.
To me, and that's okay. I'm not resentful for the years that went
No, because there was a reason, there was a purpose. But that is like a delayed prophecy or promise coming true.
And also because Martin ended up in a desperate way.
Martin, that was your 15-year-old.
And he died, you know, at 26. But I've also identified, I'm pretty sure that he was
messed with.
I mean, really serious. I mean, we lived across the road from the Rochdale Ripper, who was the same age as Martin. He lived in the same vicinity. I'm pretty sure Martin was
the Yorkshire Ripper?
The Rochdale Ripper, who murdered 2 or 3 people. And I think Martin was set up to possibly be put into that role himself. I think he was seriously messed with. I don't know how, and I picked up a Chris Spivey article about the estate that Martin lived on, and talking about that being, it's called Langley,
He just messaged me this morning. As I've been on this journey just in the last week, it's blown my mind. There were 2 or 3 people I wanted to connect with. It was you, Chris Spivey, as they call him in his things, Thomas Cheriene in Ireland, Danielle Verite, I love her.
I don't know.
I don't agree with everything, but I just adore her. She's just really, she curses a lot and she's hilarious. And
I know what you mean.
She's reached that spot where she doesn't, I love that spot where you're fearless. And now I've seen her get hurt. When we say we don't care, it's rarely true, but she mostly lives in that place. Say what you want, you do your best, do your worst, bring it on kind of thing. Because she's been in...
I've only seen 1 or 2 other things, I know what you mean.
I don't hero worship her, but I love her irreverence and I find it authentic. I don't always agree with her, and sometimes it's gratuitous, but rarely So, but Chris Spivey, you know, he's been having trouble with them trying to take his grandchild.
Oh no! I mean,
Oh,
he was in
yeah.
his house and took his computers and what.
Oh yeah, he's
no.
being set up. They're in the process of trying to set him up hugely. I presume it was a planted thing, but they reckoned that he had child porn on his computer, and all he had was evidence from abuse victims. He had photographic evidence. He's been helping people on all sorts of levels. And so they're framing it that he's a child abuser. They were going to take the child.
This is really recent because
his the court case hasn't come up yet. His daughter Stacey has a child, and he and his daughter parent the child. Basically, the father's not involved, and so it's just a lovely.
When he'd been raided. And
Well, the result of that raid was they found evidence that he was a kiddie fiddler. Was how they were trying to frame him, and he, no matter what he said to them about absolutely not, and this is, this is my line of work, this is what I do, you can check this out, these are victims that have contacted me, and so on and so forth. They haven't taken the child, and they've broken so many laws that it would be an absolute travesty if they don't get sued to the absolute hilt and realise they got the wrong person to try and intimidate like that. But yeah, no, he's been through a smear campaign.
Very, very focused.
Genius, like another very highly intelligent, like, you know, couldn't fit into the school system at all, but an IQ, off the charts IQ, and self-educated just from years
I
of
picked
that.
up on him with his Woolwich analysis of the Woolwich.
I missed that, and that's when he first pissed the establishment
because
off.
the estate that boy came from, the drummer boy, was the estate my kids' dad lived on, and they used to go every week and stay there with him, Langley, and then Chris Spivey wrote an article about being connected to the CIA and about how many murderers lived on Langley. So and then I looked at the book, I thought, I've got to look into, because I've been meaning to look into that poor lad, because I know that he was in, what he said when he was caught was, I don't remember it, because since I tried to commit suicide and was up at the hospital in Birch Hill, I have a memory blank, and I thought, shit, because then I found out he lived across the road from us when Martin was from being 8 to 13, you see. So I think my Martin was messed. I wrote this to Chris, but the other thing is that
and what did he die of? What did Martin die of?
Well, he ended up spending more time in the psychiatric unit with schizophrenia.
Oh yeah, they diagnosed
then he was found in the reservoir. But
apparent suicide. Apparent, I say that.
We don't know. So I just have to say that I saw a blog that said a blog that said that a woman made a comment. She said she was working for the Rupert Murdoch empire, and that she was employed to put disinfo out about Chris Spivey and Cathi Morgan amongst other people. So I just tell you that now.
Oh no, they do hire. No, they do, and I know
if they've gone after Chris, they could be going after me. So I'll just warn you.
No, they do that, and I was. I almost fell for one about Kevin Annett. He did forewarn me and say the Irish government did a deal with the English government. They were going to arrest me on landing in Dublin or Shannon, extradite me to England immediately to be imprisoned, and expect an absolute tsunami of disinfo and smear campaign. And I got kind of sucked into it, and the way I deal with information that seems like, you know, to be the worst thing I could possibly hear, is I ask them outright. So I contacted this Kevin Annett and I said, look, I've heard somewhere that you raped a native Indian. Is there any truth in that? Because as a survivor, that's going to be something that's going to trigger me hugely. And sadly, he didn't reply, and he dropped contact with me, which I just thought, no, you know, don't get triggered because I've asked you outright about an accusation. I'd be more like, you know, if he said, well, do you know what, I didn't see it as rape. I mean, I would never condone rape, but
sometimes things it's used as a hook.
Well, I know certainly with Chris Spivey, as a person that uncovers, you know, travesties around abuse, cover-ups, you know, whatever kind of cover-up, whether it's Westminster or Lee Digby, the perfect way to attack them is make them out to be the person that they're trying to expose. So, you know, I'm wising up to that, and that's why another reason why
Well,
I
a
need
lot of people will just step back and stop looking at any of it. That's true.
Absolutely. If you've got survivors who are traumatised and have got different issues, and you throw something in the works like, oh yeah, you do know he's a rapist, you do know he's a kiddie fiddler, well of course most of us will jump ship
They won't
because
even
we can't even tolerate
They won't
the possibility.
even go, is this true, is this not? They won't even think it's true or not true, they'll just
Yeah, gone, yeah, because it's beyond our sensibilities, and I've had to pray my way through to not just knee-jerk reacting like that, because it can be.
Yeah.
It can be.